So this idea of bhava is basically to have an experience of bhava, you have to lose your mind. So that means to lose the mind is very pleasurable, because the mind is always painful to deal with, and it's always, like we said, garbage generator, right?
Yeah.
And then beyond that, once the mind is lost, then there can be multiple waves of emotion, intense emotion, basically. And that is very pleasurable.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens with crazy people, like in this world? They don't seem to have too much pleasure, though.
Well, because the object of their emotion and the quality of their emotion is material. See, the crazy people are also beyond the mind. But the problem is, in their case, the so-called ecstasy is something negative, like fear or lust or anger or apprehension or worry or paranoia or something like some negative feeling like that. But in spiritual life, because the object is Krishna, even if it's an apparently negative feeling, it results in ecstasy for the devotee. Yeah, pleasure for the devotee. See, so even it's described that Kamsa, for example, was afraid of Krishna, and because of this fear, huh?
Like crazy afraid.
Yeah, crazy
Paranoid,
afraid,
yeah.
totally obsessively afraid. And he used to think of Krishna day and night. And because of this, he got liberated. He didn't get to the spiritual planets, he didn't get devotional service, because he was thinking of Krishna negatively. But see, then there's this another, oh boy. Then there's another phenomenon that's called prem vivarta. Prem vivarta, prema, of course, means spiritual love, ecstatic love. But vivarta means something that looks like the opposite. So prem vivarta means spiritual love that looks like the opposite. See? And especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his expansions and close devotees, they were very, very expert in relishing this prem vivarta. For example, whenever Nityananda Prabhu would go to the house of Advaita Acharya, they would begin mock fighting. And especially Advaita Prabhu would say, Nityananda, you're an avadut. You're completely beyond this material world. Nobody knows even where your family comes from or what caste you are or, where you went to school or anything. Nobody knows anything about you. You're complete cipher. You're complete unknown. Maybe by associating with you, we're going to lose all of our Brahminical qualities and just become wretched beggars, just like you. And then Nityananda would begin to say nonsensical things, like, oh, they told us to come here. Nobody understands you. Why are you teaching Mayavadi philosophy? And then he would throw rice at him. So, see, it's like, it's very hard to understand. It's like you have to be there. You have to be a part of the pastime to really understand it. So we've actually gone to the places where these pastimes occurred and seen the devotees there, and got some of the mood from there, understood all these and studied. I was one of the editors on Caitanya-caritāmṛta. In fact, my editing was the last part of the Madhya Lila and the Antya Lila, the end pastimes of the Lord. And so this included this wonderful instructions to Rupa Goswami that he wrote and into Nectar of Devotion. And it also included these discussions of the amazing pastimes of the Lord, the mad ravings of the Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the last stage of his pastimes. And at the time when I read that, I had no idea what any of this stuff was about, and it blew my mind. And here I was, being an editor, I had to go through every single word and make sure that it was, you know, the right word, what Prabhupada intended, the meaning and everything. So I had to actually duplicate the meaning in order to edit properly. And this was like such an education, you know. I was just like, oh man, I got to get to India. And that was the next thing. I went to India, and I went to all these places. So we can actually experience these things. It's not that only some great devotee a long time ago, far, far away, or can have it. No, we all can have this. And we all should. And that would be the real crowning achievement. That would be the real thing that we should desire from our practice of devotional service.
So this, what do you think, what do you believe is the trigger of this losing the mind?
Intensity. The mind cannot remain in the face of overwhelming intensity. Most of us have a trigger, an inhibition that comes in whenever things start to get too intense. And it's like fear, huh?
A limiter or something?
It's like a limiter, yeah. It's like a governor on an engine. A governor is a mechanical thing on an engine that when it reaches a certain speed, it will stop it from going any faster. Okay, so a limit or a limiter, like a compressor or limiter, will stop the signal from going any higher to a certain level. See, the mind wants to stay in control. But when things get too intense, when the stuff starts moving too fast, the mind can't keep up. And so the mind tries to stop it, you know, and usually will come up with all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't go faster or go deeper or go more intense or whatever it is. See, part of our explorations back in the 60s was about going beyond the mind through intensity. You listen to Coltrane or any of that kind of free jazz music and everything. That's what it was all about. It's totally about hitting a higher energy level beyond anything that the mind could deal with. Pure emotion, pure spiritual energy. See, we didn't have much knowledge, but it's amazing actually how much truth there is in that. The thing is that we weren't pure, you see. So because we weren't pure, our consciousness was still covered over with material contamination. And even though sometimes we hit some real peaks, then they were immediately followed by coming down.
There was no object.
Yeah, there was no platform, no object, no Krishna. So in devotional service, that's not the case. In devotional service, we can increase the intensity more and more and more, unlimitedly. Because Krishna can accept any amount of energy, any amount of service. And the soul, similarly, is capable of dealing with very, very high energies. So, beyond the mind is a place where we want to go.
Of course, that means it has to be completely private and separate and not public.
Well,
and
yeah,
all
this
that.
is not for public consumption. It's it's not appropriate.
That means, as you were saying before, only in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes that kind of display was correct or appropriate. Basically, And
But it's not like these, like I said, it's not like that kind of pastime was displayed in front of everybody, in front of the public. No.
well, and,
At first it was in the
Ratha-yatra.
courtyard of Srivas Thakur's house. And the public was not invited. They would bar the door, lock the door, keep everybody out. And then later on, in Jagannath Puri, there was a place called the Gambhira. The Gambhira was like this very isolated place near the beach. And that's where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Rai, Swarup Damodar Goswami, and Sikhi Mahiti, only 4 people would stay there. If anybody else wanted to see